Hey everyone, welcome back. I am your host, Chris Hasek-Watt. You're listening to Love Means Nothing. Happy President's Day to all of those in the US of A. Happy Family Day to those here in Canada. Yeah, it's basically a made-up holiday that Canada introduced, I think, in the 90s. I think it was 1990. I just looked it up, actually. I think it was 1990. It feels more recent than that. I know that Canada introduces it feels like we introduce a new holiday every like 4 or 5 years to a point where, those that, need to basically get shit done kind of question why we have so many holidays. But I don't mind it. I'm spending time with the family. I'm spending time with the new baby. Although I was playing tennis for the last 3 hours. So probably not putting in the family time that I should be. But I'm here now at home and, of course, jumped into my office and recording a podcast. So, to be honest, I suck at family day. So I got to pull up my socks, as they would say, or pants. I'm not even sure what they would say, or if anybody would say that these days. But I got to up my game when it comes to family day. Um, Interesting news in tennis. Okay, I found this interesting at least. Stefanos Sitsipas has left the top 10. He's now seated number 11 in the world. Not surprisingly, he hasn't had a great year in tennis. But this marks the first time ever in men's tennis where there is nobody in the top 10 with a one-handed backhand. I thought it was actually pretty crazy to think, you know what I mean, how the game has evolved. Obviously, Federer held the reins with the one-handed backhand for a very long time. And before that, the vast majority of players were one-handed. Sampras, stayed with the one hand. And then the generation before that, they were basically all one-handed. So other than Connors, I guess, and a few others. But the game as it evolves, I think that it would be a huge disadvantage to, teach any young player playing tennis to hit with a one-handed versus a two-hand. It's just essentially it's a liability. You can see it with all these players, even Federer, who had an amazing one-handed backhand. Probably the reason he had, very little success against Nadal, especially, in that mid part of his career. Towards the end, he actually started hitting that backhand a little bit earlier. I don't know, maybe it was the new racket. This kind of takes away from what I'm saying, I guess, but he managed it a little bit better. But prior to that, Nadal would always key in to his backhand, high backhands, and with that one-handed, Federer just couldn't do enough with it, couldn't generate enough power. I personally think probably even a bigger disadvantage with the one-handed backhand is regarding the return of serve. You have to do a quick grip change, whereas if you have a two-handed backhand, you're basically holding the racket with a forehand grip with your forehand, and then you're holding it with a backhand grip on the upper hand. So if you're right-handed with your left hand, and then it's very easy to just move that right hand grip slightly over because that left hand is already in the right position. Whereas if you have a one-handed backhand and you want to actually hit over the ball, you have to fully change your grip. There's just limited time to do that. You can see that with Sitsipas. His backhand return is not very good. Shapo's backhand return is terrible. Wawrinka's backhand return, he basically slices it every time. So he keeps kind of a continental grip, and he'll slice his forehand and his backhand because he can't really turn the grip over in time unless he's standing way behind the baseline. And he's usually only doing that for a second serve, standing way back on a slow court, kick serve, and then he has time to change his grip. Federer just being one of the most talented tennis players, if not the most talented tennis player ever, actually managed returning the ball quite well. I remember Roddick, who had, one of the biggest serves ever. Federer would eat that serve up. He would just slice and dice that serve back. But again, he was kind of slicing that return. He wasn't hitting through it like a Djokovic would. So anyway, I'm talking a lot about the one-handed backhand, probably more than I expected. But, for, Rome, my little boy, when he, starts getting on the tennis court, we're definitely going two-handed. backhand, and I'd recommend anybody starting out go two-handed. So the one-hander, sadly, is in the men's game at least, and the women's game. It's going to be gone, in my opinion. There'll be the odd person with a one-handed backhand, but like I said, it's a huge disadvantage. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Carlos Alcaraz. He played Argentina, Buenos Aires, which was a surprise to some, but he did play it last year as well. So he likes that little circuit. Nadal, I think, did that for a while in his career as well. This kind of South American circuit prior to Indian Wells. I don't blame him. Apparently, he was paid $900,000 as a fee for showing up. So that's pretty good. I think now his minimum to show up to these tournaments, that would exclude Grand Slams. I don't think the 1,000 level tournaments pay players to show up, although that might not be totally true. I think Larry Ellison at Indian Wells, the owner of Indian Wells, the owner of Intel, I know that he plays some of these, or pays some of these players to play doubles. So like I remember Wawrinka and Federer played together, and there's been other duos or matchups where typically these players would not be playing doubles, especially with who their partner happens to be in that tournament. So there is some money being thrown at them, but I'm not sure if 1,000 level tournaments pay players to play in the singles draw, because I think I think players are motivated to play in those tournaments regardless because of the prize money and, of course, because of the points. So Alcaraz, they paid him $900,000. Hopefully they paid him in US dollars, not in Argentinian pesos, because basically from the time when the tournament started to when it ended, based on inflation being over 100% there, it's a lot less. So I'm sure that he negotiated that in US dollars. If he didn't, he needs a better manager. Anyway, Alcaraz went down in the semifinals to Jarry. And then Jarry, you just assume he's playing unbelievable, and then he'd win the finals. He ended up losing 6-3, 6-4 in the finals. So you don't even know if Jarry's game was that good. But disappointing for Alcaraz. He, played a couple matches, maybe 2 or 3 matches to get there. Not overly convincing based on the score lines and some of the highlights that I've seen. This now is definitely, you could definitely say that Alcaraz is in a bit of a funk. He has not won a tournament since Wimbledon of last year, and he has not even been in the finals of a tournament since Cincinnati, when he lost that epic match against Djokovic. So Alcaraz has admitted that he's definitely disappointed in his game. It's not at a level that he expects. I'm not worried about it because the guy is insanely talented, and I'm sure, in a few months from now, or at least half a year from now, we might not be talking about it at all, because he's won a couple tournaments. But definitely the tides have turned, and all the focus is on Sinner, who happened to just come out with a win in Rotterdam, a 500 level tournament where the draw consisted of much better players. It was actually a pretty stacked draw for a 500 level tournament. He ended up beating Alex de Minaur in the finals, who's been having a great year. He beat him 7-5, 6-4. Sinner just now feels like he belongs. He's got that confidence where you're always expecting yourself to win, even if you're not playing well. You know that you should find a way, because that's just where his mindset is. And when you just come off winning a major, you've basically been the best tennis player in the world for the last 4 or 5, or even probably about the last 4 or 5 months, then your confidence is soaring. Sinner ended up beating Greek Sport in the semis. De Minaur beat Dimitrov, who also, I would say De Minaur and Dimitrov are having, for not being like the Sinner or the Djokovic's of the world, having the 2 best years out of any other player. Dimitrov, that's only his 2nd loss, I think, this year. Alex de Minaur, we all know he was off to a hot start. Raonic played with those ankle socks and those short shorts, that Lululemon outfit. I'm still confused about Lulu and them making moves in tennis. I'm not a huge fan of Lululemon. I feel like they're now, the men that like Lululemon are kind of like middle-aged men that don't really have a ton of fashion sense. They don't do anything overly cool. But with that said, they still have some good designs, okay? Good silhouettes, etc. But whenever they dress their tennis players, whether it's Leylah Fernandez, whether it's now Raonic, whether it's Mannarino, okay, they put them in the worst outfit, particularly Mannarino. I actually don't think that Mannarino is necessarily even sponsored by Lulu. I just think he goes to one of the Lululemon outlets. I don't even think it's a real store. He buys basically the ugliest thing that they have on the rack, and it's kind of like a pride thing for him, trying to dress shitty on the court, which is a little bit surprising because Mannarino started out looking not overly good on the court, but then he started wearing hydrogen, shaved his head, and I was actually kind of feeling his style. And then I don't know if hydrogen dropped him or he just left them for whatever reasons. Now the Lululemon, it's not working out. Anyway, Raonic went with the navy blue again. The ankle socks, I'm telling you, I'm never feeling the ankle socks. And these really short shorts with a guy with those legs looks a little weird, but anyway. He actually looked decent for it, but I still think Lululemon could really up their game on the tennis court. And that's all that happened. Hurkacz lost to Greek Sport. Hurkacz is one of those guys that, like, I just can never get up and excited to watch him play with. Like, the guy actually hits some amazing shots. He's got great hands. He'll hit the odd tweener. He'll do something like amazing, but still, I just will never take 2 hours or 3 hours out of my day to watch a full Hurkacz match. It's just not something I'm going to do. That's about it that happened in that tournament. Rune, who did Rune lose to? Rune lost to Shevchenko. I'm actually thinking, I talked about all the coaching changes in my last pod with Becker. Now, I think I talked about Becker leaving. Anyway, I'm starting to think that Rune may never actually amount to being a Grand Slam winner. He's just not doing his thing like everyone expected. He came out of the gates hot. But, he's still ranked pretty high, but he might fall out of the top 10 mid-year if he doesn't start doing anything. I don't know. He seems a little bit scattered. His game is so hot sometimes and so terrible other times. I hate Shevchenko because I had him in the Australian Open to go deep, and he lost first round. Basically, he basically got triple bagelled. So now I got beef against him, and now he's playing for Kazakhstan, which I talked about, which I also find weird. Him and Bublik moving from Russia to Kazakhstan. Like, who are they fooling? I don't know. It must be about some sort of funding. I don't get it. Anyway, so that's Rotterdam. There's another tournament going on. Delray Beach. I think it's just finished today. They played the finals on President's Day. So Taylor Fritz won that tournament. I think this was a 250. He beat Tommy Paul in the final. It was basically all Americans. I don't even know if a non-American played in this tournament. The semis. It was, I think there were 4 Americans. It was Taylor Fritz. He beat Giron, who's playing well this year. Tommy Paul destroyed Tiafoe, 6-2, 6-2. I know Tiafoe got to the semifinals here, but Tiafoe's having a terrible year. He's had some really bad losses. And when he loses, when I say bad, I mean like he gets destroyed, like 2-2 kind of score lines. Okay, a couple non-Americans in this tournament. Anyway, so that's what happened on court. There was a women's tournament as well, the WTA, as you all know, in Doha, I believe. Swiatek won that in Qatar. It's funny how there's so much resistance about women playing these tournaments in Saudi Arabia, but nobody talks about them playing in Qatar, okay? Or in Dubai, which is a little bit more liberal. But Qatar, there's still some major issues there around women's rights, etc. But it's not even like on the radar where people are talking about it. So it's just odd that there's that what's the word I'm looking for? that gap there. That was not the word I was looking for, but it works. The gap between conversations around Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Hey everyone, I have my first sponsor and I couldn't be happier about it because I shop from them all the time. I get my contact lenses there. I get my glasses. I'm a -2 in both eyes, by the way. I even get sunglasses from there. The company is called kits.com. It is Canadian based. Their lab is here. That's where all the hard work is done. If you've ever bought glasses in the past, you know how outrageously expensive they are. It's because it's a monopoly. Look up Luxottica. Kits.com is the solution. Glasses, prescription glasses for only $28, progressives for as low as $98. And now you can use my code LMN and get additional 25% off. Check them out. Let me go to my notes. What else am I going to talk about here? We talked about Alcaraz and the fee, the tournaments. We don't really need to talk about Super Bowl. Basically, my last recording was Sunday morning. The Super Bowl happened a few hours after I put out my last pod. So it feels like it's old news. I don't want to cheer for Kansas City because I kind of hate them, but I always find myself hoping that they kind of win. It's bugging me. And then what happened after that? Kelce, I'm not even trying to be like one of these, everyone's I know hating on Travis Kelce and the relationship with Taylor Swift. Like, I don't even care about that. But when the guy spoke after the win and he hit the mic and he starts screaming about Viva Las Vegas and then him partying and then the Super Bowl, the parade afterwards, where he was absolutely like on his face hammered, like that's not an attractive trait. You know what I mean? He's not like he's a role model to young people at this point, and he's acting like a complete idiot. I give that relationship under a year to last. Again, not a hater on the relationship. You know, if they're both happy, I'm happy for them. But why would she be with somebody like that? He still acts like a rowdy drunk. Like, I thought he'd have like, honestly, dating Taylor Swift, I thought he'd have a little bit more sophistication to him, to be honest. I know he's like a big, badass football player that like runs over people for a living, but I thought when he like spoke, etc., he'd be a little bit more refined. I didn't see that. Maybe when he's not hammered, he's actually an intellect. I don't know. Usher killed it. 45 years old, fucking looking amazing, doing his thing. Renee Stubbs didn't like it, unfortunately, everyone. She tweeted that not impressed. She gave it like a 2 out of 10. So what she was saying is, hey, Usher, not good. Me on Cameo, very good. Later that day or the other day, then she tweeted, I don't know. I don't want to be seeing Renee Stubbs tweets. I truly don't. But I can't not follow her anymore because it's just too much good information. Then after ripping Usher, which there were comments being like, what are you talking about? Then she talks about, hey, sign up to Cameo. And if you don't know what Cameo is, it's a platform where like B, C, and in Renee Stubbs' case, D or E-list celebrities go on there and people like pay them like $100 or like $50 or $200, kind of depending on what their celebrity status is, to film like a short little video. So put their iPhone out in front of them, do like a selfie video and say, hey, happy birthday to so-and-so. Like, let's say I wanted Renee Stubbs to wish a happy birthday to my spouse. Then I would do that. She would do that. Send it. Like, who in their right mind would pay even $100 to have a happy birthday wish to their spouse from Renee Stubbs? That's the big question. And if you're doing that, you really need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, why do you like Renee Stubbs? And why does your spouse like Renee Stubbs? And if she does like it, well, then you guys, I'm happy for you because you're both kind of a little bit deranged. And no, that's not the right word. Just off kilter. No, that's probably not the right word either. There's something going on there. Now, if it was a joke, like I could see my spouse doing that to me and Renee Stubbs wished me a happy birthday, I would actually find that funny because clearly people now think I'm a little bit obsessed with her, and I'm talking about her again for 3 minutes. So let's get off of that. But I don't know if she's like hard up for cash. Like I said, I want to be friends with her. I put that out there. So if she needs like a short-term loan, etc., she can just shoot me a message. She has my Twitter details. She shot me that DM before, so she could do it again. What else to talk about? Sakkari, the Greek goddess tennis player, her and her coach separated after being together for 5 years. I wish I had a link on this one because I want to get a bit more information about this guy. But watching Breakpoint season 1 and season 2, my first thought when I saw their dynamic and his coaching style was, why is she with this amateur? That was my first thought. I did not feel like he even knew how to play the game. I don't feel like he really understood the game. And I don't think he really understood Maria Sakkari. I don't know why I'm not pronouncing her name right now. Because she had all these mental issues. You know what I mean? Like, she was so hard on herself. She got super tight, and he was never properly able to deal with that with her. So I don't know why she kept him around. I just assumed that they had a thing. Like, they were kind of hooking up on the side. Maybe they were, maybe it's public information, but I'm assuming they had some sort of relationship. Otherwise, I didn't know why she'd keep him around. Anyway, their coaching relationship ended, and they went out kind of amicably, and everybody in the tennis world's like, oh, this is how you do it. These people, they are so professional, and they're getting along. They did it in a professional way, no hard feelings, etc. Whatever, anybody can put out these posts saying that I wish you well, it was an honor to work with you, etc. I'm not sure what went down there, but to be honest, I'm glad for her that she did it. It's probably about 4 years too late, but she's still young. I think she's probably not even 30 yet, so she's still got a career ahead of her. And a new coach would probably do her well. I also saw on Tennis TV or somewhere some news about Amelie Mauresmo, talking about backhands after Justine Henin. She might have had the best one-handed woman's backhand in history. You could say Steffi Graf maybe, but hers was just basically a slice. It was good. Anyway, Mauresmo, her ex-wife, okay, I'm just reading the headline, faces 4 months in prison after being found guilty of harassing the former world number one. That's when you know you've married a psychopath, okay? When literally the person continues to stalk you after marriage. You obviously had to get some sort of restraining order against her. She did not adhere to that restraining order, again, clearly. Otherwise, she wouldn't be facing 4 months in jail. So hopefully Mauresmo's safety is okay, because this person does sound a little nuts. So 4 months away for stalking an ex-wife. I thought that was interesting. What else do I have here? I have Martina Navratilova. I don't really need to talk about this, but she's putting out tons of tweets. I actually agree with her on, so she essentially tweets about two things. One is about biological males playing in women's sports, and she's adamantly against it, and I couldn't agree more with her on that. The other thing that she tweets about a lot is being anti-Trump and kind of pro-Biden. Now, she's anti-Trump, then okay, I get it. The guy has his faults, clearly. But being pro-Biden also is like, okay, we know that he is early stage or mid-stage, suffering from dementia, clearly not fit to lead a company, let alone the most powerful nation on earth. So let's just get off of that, okay? And she said something about, about taking a cognitive test at the same time and compare notes. Except she said the orange guy won't ever do it because he knows what the result would be. Okay, fine. You could say that, some of his decisions that he makes and what he says you don't agree with, but cognitively, clearly he's all there. You can tell by him the kind of schedule that he has. It's intense. The freestyling in his speeches, the Q&As he has, it's not scripted. Cognitively, he's all there. You know what I mean? Whether you think he's a little bit crazy, that's one thing, but cognitively, he's there. Whereas Biden absolutely is not. And the fact that it's going to be a Biden versus Trump election again in November is just sad for everybody. It definitely should not be Biden. I can't believe the Dems, I guess they just don't have a choice. The staffers that work for Biden, they probably like it because they're essentially the president themselves because he's not making the decisions. And then as far as, Trump and the Republicans, it's just, it would have been very nice to see him move on and them get, a young, smart, more moderate, but still aligned with the Republican values leader. But they weren't able to do that. Vivek, he did a great job, but you could tell from the beginning that he knew the chances of him beating Trump were close to zero. So he kind of aligned everything that he did to be potentially the vice president for Trump. And he just might be. He just might be. And, if you're the VP for Trump, who's to say that you in 4 years won't be the guy, running, or if something were to happen to Trump, you be the president. So clearly this was very strategic by him, and it might totally work the way, he was hoping for. Venus, moving on. Venus Williams, she's 43. She was just awarded a wild card into Indian Wells, which will be her first tournament of the season. Okay, I've got some thoughts on this. Will it sell more tickets? Probably it will sell more tickets. And, everyone was all upset about the whole Andy Murray thing a couple weeks ago, saying, hey, you can play as long as you want. It's not going to stain your legacy. Venus Williams has won, I don't know, 8 or 9 slams, maybe more even. So she is a legend of the sport. She can play till whatever. It's not going to hurt her legacy. Fine, maybe that's true. I don't fully agree with that, but maybe that is true to an extent. Again, I don't fully agree with that. But when you're playing and you can hardly walk, let alone run around a tennis court. Her body is beaten up. She's been doing this for a long time. She has zero chance of making any sort of run at these tournaments. Like, why are you? Yeah, I think maybe in the women's game she could actually win a match. Who knows? And because some women on the tour, they're weak, and you might get lucky one day. But the fact is, this is a bit of a joke. It's a joke. It shouldn't happen. I'm all for wild cards. Wozniacki getting a wild card. I'm okay with that because she can actually still compete. She's in her mid 30s and she's a serious contender, but Venus Williams is not. So let's cut the bullshit here. She should not be playing in this tournament. It's a bit of a joke. Moving on. What I screenshotted this. Okay, let me click on this. Hopefully it comes up. It did. Okay. This is back to the Super Bowl. I probably should have brought this up as I was talking about the Super Bowl. This is focused on Morgan Friley, who is Taylor Fritz's girlfriend. They met on Tinder. She's got a big social media following. Some people might say she's in it for her own gain, for her own popularity, not for true love. Like all of those that go on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette are on it for. Anyway, she put out a couple posts around the Super Bowl. One, I'm just reading what she put here. It's her looking cute with her lips out, looking to the side. Don't know why she posted a photo like this for what she's about to say. She says, spent the third quarter in the bathroom of the stadium because I had a panic attack. Now let's get into why she had a panic attack. So now another post is, wasn't going to post about this, but I actually think it's important to. I can't believe the levels of harassment we dealt with this weekend from men. In the last 3 days, I've been gropped. She meant to say grope. Maybe how do you spell groped? Groped, that would make me look stupid if I'm making fun of her, but she spelled it right. Groped, harassed, catcalled incessantly, basically every few minutes when we were out in public, and it was really bad. At the game today, we couldn't even enjoy the game without getting bothered by drunk, rude, gross male fans. It's extremely stressful and scary. And I think that's, I don't know. She wrote more. Oh, it's about some father who had a kid and was acting obnoxious, and the kid was saying, "Hey, daddy, why are you acting that way?" Anyway, so guys, smarten up. When you're at a football game, okay, doing your manly things, drinking beer, hooting and hollering, just don't focus it on the blonde girl, okay? Don't say that she's looking pretty or hot. Definitely shouldn't grow up. Okay, I'll agree with her on that one. You don't touch. But beyond that, let's be freaking honest here. What does she expect? She's going to a football game, the Super Bowl, where it's the testosterone is fucking through the roof. It's all 90% fucking guys that like football. They're hammered, they're rowdy, and she's making this post. Like, I don't want to come off, okay, like I'm saying that it's okay, but listen, when you put yourself in a position at the football game, like, and some guys like hooting and hollering at you, I'm not sure exactly what she's expecting. Okay, what else is going on in the world of tennis? I don't think anything else that's overly exciting. Everyone, if you live in Canada, enjoy this time with your family. Okay, family is very important. Tell your children that you love them. Tell your spouse that you love them. Tell your parents, if you are so lucky and they are around, tell them that you love them. To FaceTime them often. If you have a little baby or child, FaceTime them and show them the kids, because they probably want to see them. And if the grandparents don't want to see their kids, they're assholes. And if you're in the US, then celebrate your president, even if demented, even if corrupt, even if crooked. And I'm talking about many presidents, not just one. I'm not picking a side. But you really have not much to celebrate today based on the president's choices that you guys have these days. Anyway, thank you for listening to Love Means Nothing. I am your host, Chris Hasek-Watt. Don't forget to follow me. Go to my website. And better yet, like, follow, subscribe, comment on the pod, because apparently that helps with the algorithm. Okay? And therefore more eyeballs will see my pod and I will get more listeners. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.